Welcome to AlphaOmegaRadio interviews. My name is Moreno, and today we interview Jessen Jurado. He's the man behind the I.O. chip shows here in New York City. So stay tuned for part one of this two-part interview.
What were some of your favorite video games growing up?
Growing up, I played a lot of Nintendo games like Ninja Gaiden and Mega Man 2, Mega Man 3, Castlevania, all like the major games that had really good, really distinctive music. Like, even if they weren't that great, some of them, what kept me playing was the music. And in fact, some of the games that I really liked were good games, like Mega Man 2, that also had good music. And I would just play them, and you know, because then the only way you could hear this music was by playing the game.
So when were you first exposed to the chiptune scene?
The chiptune scene, that would have been 2005 or 2006, probably 2005. Yeah, I went to a Pulse Wave at the Tank, which was in Midtown, near Lexington Avenue for the first time, and there were maybe 20-30 people in the audience, and people were playing. Who I later learned was No Sleep and Bubbly Fish, among some others. Kovacs, I think, was there. It was so long ago, but I remember that it was so like harsh and raw, and the fact that they were just using Game Boys and you know, Nintendos to make music was like mind-blowing to me. I really like just couldn't believe that they were actually making new compositions using the old hardware. And it was good. I really enjoyed it, but I felt like I don't know, I didn't fully understand all of it. Like, I didn't know what they were doing, how they were making that music come out of Game Boy. Yeah,
there's a misconception. When people first see this, they think that it's like a hack. They always say like a hack a Game Boy or something, where someone went in there and retooled it or something. And you know, it involves some software, it involves some music, obviously.
Right. I didn't know anything about trackers. When I first saw chip music played and composed, like a lot of other people who come into it without a background in making music on computers, I didn't know what a tracker was. I didn't realize how you can make music live that a chip would play. What you program, what you tell the computer to do, is a set of instructions that lets the chip play it live, as opposed to an MP3 or a sound file on a CD or some other format where it's been mastered and mixed and composed and then recorded, so that you're hearing just the recording as opposed to something playing the music live with the instructions.
How did the idea to create I.O. Chip Music New York City originate?
Well, I went to the Blip Festival in 2006. I only went for one day. I wasn't sure what to expect. I read about it in Wired, and I just went to see what it was all about. I was like, oh, this sounds pretty cool. I've gone to a couple of chip shows before, and now it looks like there's some kind of festival going on. So I went, and I was just blown away. It was at I-Beam, and it was just huge. It was a gigantic place with hundreds of people there, and then there were like vendors selling, you know, hacked up Nintendos and having like displays and demos of things that they were doing with not just the music but the visuals too. And I went and I had a blast. It was amazing, and I couldn't believe that I knew chip music existed by then, but I didn't realize that there were so many people who were into it, and that it was so big that it could draw this kind of crowd. Yeah,
people were coming from different parts of the world.
Yeah, and sadly I picked the last day of the festival to go, so because if had I known, I would have gone like to every single day.
Right.
But then I was just kind of hooked, and I was like, great, this is amazing. I'm glad that it's this big, and the music seems to be getting like even more like far out. Like there's just they're getting really crazy, and I can't wait for the next show. So I went to the next show.
Right.
Then the very next chip show, you know, I signed up to 8-Bit People's mailing list or whatever, and checked the websites frequently. Forget which I did, but I was just looking forward to the next show, which was not a Pulse Wave. It was a one-off show somewhere, and it was in the back of a bar. And from my perspective, there were very few people at that show. It seemed like there were 10 or 20, and it was like on a Wednesday or a Thursday night. The projector for the visuals was wedged in a corner somewhere. There were people like dancing or like, you know, like moshing in the front, and Don Miller, who was doing visuals, was in the back, and his tables with his Nintendos and stuff looked like they were about to fall over because people were just like, you know, almost crashing right into it. And you know, the music was fantastic. The energy from the people who were there for the show was great. But it was like maybe 20, 30 people tops in my mind. I didn't see... I saw the people like sitting down. I saw that it was a regular day for the bar where if they didn't have a show, they would have been open for business anyway. So, you know, the musicians were way in the back. And I went there and I was like, what happened? Like, I went to this festival with hundreds of people and this is a big change. Like, there's got to be, you know, there's got to be like another venue, and this is before, like, I really had gone to Pulse Waves, and I knew there was a big crowd there. But I thought to myself, I used to play in a band, and I know a place where we've got a pretty decent sized venue, and maybe we can put on some good shows there. That happened to be the back room of Niagara, which was where the Antagonist Art Movement folks, Ethan Minsker, that I had met before when I was playing in the punk band Dead on a Friday, had art and music shows, and also spoken word and poetry and various like art exhibits.
So it was a good fit.
Yeah, it was a good fit. I went over there, and that's where I met, you know, I talked to Ethan, who I'd known but hadn't talked to in a few years. I met Marissa B., who was in charge of the shows by that time, and we started doing shows there on Monday nights, and it was a great way to, you know, to experiment and see how much of a crowd we could get on a Monday night in the back room of a bar that happens to also be an art gallery and a venue.
Right.
It was a good way to say, all right, well, we've got limited resources, but we can still put on a pretty good show, and a lot of people will turn out. And that's exactly what happened.